This is a podcast about one woman's mission to help entrepreneurs and business owners write better business books. Each week, we tackle your writing excuses, because there are excuses too, and help you beat the blank page of doom so that you can write the book that'll grow your life and your business. Now here's your host, Vicky Fraser.
Hello and welcome to the 1000 Authors Show. I'm Vicky Fraser and this is my sad husband.
Hello. I'm not that sad.
Oh, you said you were sad.
It's getting a bit fed up. Fed up with the lockdown, fed up of a small, controlled world. We're used to bigger.
Yeah.
More people.
And today, I thoroughly recommend that you go and check us out on YouTube, because today is the day of the hats. It's podcast hats, because
My hair is like mostly pointing all in random directions.
it's very large and
Not in charge.
not in charge at all. I'm sorry, Joe. And so in a show of solidarity, I too am wearing a hat. I'm wearing a top hat, which is pretty fucking fabulous, actually.
I feel like a down on his luck gold prospector from a long time ago.
Oh, let's give you a character. What's your name?
Shifty McGraw.
I like it. So, in today's podcast, my name... Oh, I need a name. What name could I be? Like, imagine that I'm like a gangster's mob. What would my name be? Honey, my name is...
This is well planned.
My name is Honey Maguire, and this is my husband, Shifty McGrew. Honey Maguire and Shifty McGrew. I like it. Okay, let's... this is the 1000 Authors Show. It's currently lunchtime, so we're drinking tea. Cheers. There is very little in the world that can't be made at least a tiny bit better by a nice cup of tea. We are nothing if not painfully British.
It's true.
And at the moment, embarrassed to be British, but let's not talk about that. So, what are we reading? Joe, what are you reading at the moment?
I'm reading book 10, can you believe it, of The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. When the TV programme finally comes out, I am going to be so far ahead of everybody that it's just insane.
You know, I think probably quite a lot of people have read the whole series.
Yeah, but quite a lot of people haven't.
Oh, that's true. And I am reading The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte.
Oof.
Which is actually great. I'm loving it.
Sounds very serious.
Well, it does, but I think it's because it's been called, like, literature, because it's literature. But it's very good. I'm really enjoying it. Anne Bronte was incredibly ahead of her time. I think we talked about this a bit last week, so that's all I'll say on that, because I just think it's great. It's a very good book. Enjoyable. And non-fiction, I am reading This Is Your Brain on Music by Daniel Levitin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting. It's all about the neuroscience of music and how music affects our brains and how we perceive things. And it's very, very interesting. Lots of science, nerdy science stuff in there, lots of physics, lots of interesting music facts as well, because he used to be a record producer before he became a neuroscientist. Mm-hmm. And so he's worked with all kinds of interesting people. That's very cool. And yeah, so what have we been doing in quarantine, Joe?
We've been experimenting in bread.
Yeah.
We've made a lot of bread, some of which has been quite sturdy, others of which has been quite dry.
We're really struggling to make consistently good bread. Right, the first 2 loaves we made were superb, weren't they?
Well, I think the difference recently is we've gone from making like round cottage loaves on a tray to trying to do the same sort of thing but in a tin.
Do you think that's what makes a difference?
Which is a bit easier to sort of toast and make sandwiches out of. And I think it changes like the surface area to volume ratios, and it all comes out a bit drier and a bit different.
So anybody who's listening who knows how to bake bread well and consistently, any hints and tips would be gratefully received, because we're really enjoying the homemade bread, but it's a little bit inconsistent.
Yeah, if there was like a troubleshooting guide, you know, if your bread is a bit sturdy, then try this. If it's a bit down, then put a bit less of this in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We're doing something not quite right.
So yeah, there's been lots of bread. We've eaten a lot of chocolate oranges, because every time Joe goes shopping, he picks up a essential chocolate orange, which is not not particularly good for us, really, but it tastes good. Oh, and yesterday, our lovely neighbours who our elderly neighbours who have been shopping for every week dropped us in a giant box of Maltesers and a big box of Ferrero Rocher, which is so cool. Sweet of them. Apparently to say thank you for shopping, which was totally unnecessary, but very much appreciated.
Yeah, very nice.
So we ate far too many Maltesers last night. Because the thing with Maltesers is, you have to gently pick all the chocolate off the outside of it while it's in your mouth before it melts, and then you've just got like the biscuity bit inside.
The malty bit. The
malty bit, yes. That's how I eat Maltesers.
I think that's how everyone eats Maltesers.
Yeah. So what else have we done? We've broken 2 lawnmowers. Which is awesome, given the rate the grass is growing at the moment. Yeah. So we may not even be able to do a podcast next week because we may have just disappeared into a jungle. Yeah. I don't know. Made progress with my vegetables. Vegetables are going very well, although we might have just killed a courgette with the recent cold nights. Yeah, so we've had a frost, quite a heavy frost last night and a frost the night before, and I fleeced a lot of my plants the night before, but I didn't fleece the courgette plant, and now I feel really guilty, and I fleeced the courgette plant last night and it's in even worse shape today, and I think it might be an ex-courgette plant. But I've got like 10 more courgette plants in the greenhouse. That's not to say that courgette plant was disposable. I feel a bit bad, but you know. Yes. It's fine. We did a murder mystery. That was fun. Yeah, on Zoom, and I was frankly furtive. Mm-hmm. I was a sweet transvestite, and Joe was a French maid. I was. If you follow me on Instagram at TreeFrogToe, you can see photos of that. Yeah, it was kind of weird. I mean, I appreciated the way on the village WhatsApp group you asked everybody who lives within a few hundred yards of here if anybody had a little black dress suitable for a medium-sized man. Well, I didn't have anything that would fit you, and the village has been very forthcoming in every other circumstance. And indeed, the village was very forthcoming this time, and a little black dress was duly delivered and it fit Joe perfectly. I'm just concerned as to, you know... No, I'm not really concerned. Why do you care what they think? I don't care what they think. We're definitely the unusual ones in the village, I think. Well, we are also the compost dealers. We got everybody compost, so they better be nice to us or we won't get them compost anymore. And we planned a holiday in November. Nice. Because we were supposed to be in a tree house tomorrow. We're supposed to be going to a tree house tomorrow. Obviously, that's not happening. So we're going in November for our anniversary again instead. Which will be lovely. Will be lovely. I'm very excited about it. We better be able to go in November. Because, yeah. If we can't go in November, then we're building a tree house and staying in that for a couple of nights. Yes. Anyway, what are we talking about? We are doing a new series, everybody. Are we? Yes, because we did the 7 Deadly Sins series, and a couple of years ago, we did the hostage negotiation series, which never ended. And so this time we're doing the writing excuses series. Okay. Yeah. Well, maybe not excuses, but writing excuses sounds more pithy than the totally legitimate reasons people give me for not writing their book series. Okay. So today we are talking about time. Time. The most precious commodity known to humans. Mm-hmm. Or any creature, I guess. Yes. Do you think other creatures acknowledge time as a thing? Oh, speaking of other creatures, that's one thing that we did this week. We've started building me a little office garden around my office, and we unearthed, we picked up some slabs, and there were massive ant nests underneath, and they're so cool because you expose the ant nest and then the eggs are there, and then they're all like, ah! And they kind of grab all their eggs and move them around. It's fascinating to watch. Anyway, time. I don't know if... also, we're going to keep bees. Also, we're going to keep bees, yes. That's very vague plan for next year, bees. Yes, because our neighbours are keeping bees and he's going to help us. Anyway, time. When I ask people what is stopping them from writing a book, almost everyone says time as one of the top 2 or 3 things that they don't have time to write a book. There are other answers too, and we will cover those in this series. So these are people who acknowledge that they want to write a book. Yes. And then they chuck some reasons in why they feel they can't. Yes, why they feel they can't, yes. And, there is other stuff too, but time is a massive one, and I totally understand that because I am a person who crams a lot of things into my time. Mm-hmm. Some might say too many things into your time. Yes. I would say that too. I totally agree. There never seems to be enough time, even for not busy people. Mm-hmm. Doesn't seem to be enough time. But we all have the same amount of it. So how do some people get so much done while others struggle? And I thought that could be what we talk about today. We are going to talk about how much time you really need to write a book. And also some of the epic bullshit that women face from the constant bro barrage of the online business world. And also some nifty little hacks to help you make the most of the time that you do have, even in lockdown.
Okay.
So let's start with the whole lockdown thing, because I want to just address something that's been going on. I think there's like the stages of lockdown, and the first stage of lockdown was, I am going to learn 3 languages, and I'm going to learn how to bake bread, and I'm going to like do all of the household projects, and I'm going to homeschool my kids, and I don't have kids, but I know that people have been, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and it's like, I'm going to be so productive. And that happens for a week, and then everyone's like, I feel a bit exhausted, and like, I don't want to ever talk to, my children stroke spouse stroke colleagues on Zoom ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like a perfectly reasonable reaction to what's going on.
Yeah.
But then it's not sustainable in any way, shape or form. And so if that sounds like you, or if you feel like you want to do all those things, because that's something that I've discovered over the last couple of weeks. I filled my first couple of weeks with like loads of stuff to do. And then I beat myself up because I couldn't do all of those things. And then the last couple of weeks, I've spent a lot of time kind of looking at what's going on social media, and especially watching people make really good progress with their splits and their backbends. And I have not had the time to attend all of the classes that I would like to, or to train as much as I would like to, because I've got, this business to run and household, stuff to gardening things to do. And so I felt really sad some days, actually. Not that I don't want people to do that, because it's really lovely seeing people make progress, but I felt sad because I'm like, I really wanted to come out of lockdown with my splits, and I just don't think that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just like, so maybe you're, maybe you're not wanting to do the splits, but maybe you're seeing people doing things that you would like to do, and you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to be able to do it. It's like, maybe that's okay. It's okay. And if you really, really want to do it, then carve out a little bit of time every day. And that goes for writing your book as well. See that neat segue there?
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty good, wasn't it? So think about what you really, really want to achieve, whether it's in lockdown or outside of lockdown, because quite often I talk to people and they'll give me all of these excuses, and I'll say to them, do you really want to write a book? And some people will be like, yes, I really do. I've got this book inside me and it needs to come out. And other people are like, I don't know. I just feel like I should.
Mm-hmm.
And my answer to those people is, if that's what you're thinking, you're never going to write a book. It's certainly not a really good one.
No.
Because if your heart's not in it, you're not going to make that time. You're not going to put the time aside. You're not going to put the effort that's required to write a book in.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, people prioritise different things, don't they? You've got time and you've got money for the things that you prioritise. I remember there was a guy just after university who bought a Lotus. He bought a really nice car. And everyone was like, bloody hell, how did you do that? And the reason was that was his priority. It wasn't paying rent. Well, he did, in fact, end up living in his Lotus for some time, which seems ridiculous. But, he had his Lotus. That was his priority.
They're not very big. How did he do that?
He uncomfortably.
Yeah.
He was a really tall guy as well. So it is about the priorities, isn't it? It's if we've all got the same amount of time. If you'd prioritised working on your splits, then you'd have made progress on your splits. And it's everybody's got the same amount of time.
But I am going to just stop you right there, because that leads into the constant bro barrage of the online business. So I'm not accusing you of doing that. But this is some of the epic bullshit that women face, because I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she was telling me how she was talking to a group of people in her mentoring group, and one of the men in the group was like, oh, you've been wanting to do a podcast for ages. Now's the perfect time to start. You've got all this time while you're on lockdown. And she's like, excuse me? Mm-hmm. She has 3 children, one of whom is a toddler. Her husband is stuck in a completely different country. She's trying to homeschool them. She's trying to run 2 businesses. When the fuck is she going to have time to start a podcast? Mm-hmm. And that absolutely, she was just a bit rolly-eyed about it, I think. It absolutely enraged me, because it is typical of just the total blinkered lack of empathy that a lot of business owners have. And it is mostly men. And if you're a man and you're getting angry listening to this, chill your tits and listen, because it's about listening, looking at what's going on with other people. So, it's really easy to say, make this one thing a priority and just focus on that to the exclusion of all else. If you have a house to run and kids to look after and another business to run, you can't do that. And before, the men pipe up with, oh, well, I do a bit of that as well. It's like every single business conference I've been to, every single group of business things that I've been to, at break times, the men will be kind of chatting to each other. They might be making business calls. The women are invariably on the phone, either to their children or to the person who is looking after their children. to make sure that their kids are okay. That is the way it is. And that difference, it's like, until you get your head around that difference and understand that that is how the world is, and it shouldn't bloody be like that, but it is, then maybe be a little bit more sensitive. You know, whatever you do in business, when you're thinking, oh, you just need to prioritize this money here or that time there, it's not always as simple as that. So for all of the men who are like, oh, I managed to do this thing because I focused on it 100%, doesn't talk about what's happening in the background of his life, which is usually that he's got a partner who is looking after the kids, looking after the house, often doing quite a lot of work in the business as well. And so that enables him to do that. So that's why I want to be really careful about saying stuff like that, because it feeds into a worldview that is very, very male and privileged and white and middle class. I'm not like digging at you. See, now you're getting defensive, and I'm not.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
And I'm not sure why, because you're really good at this stuff. Because like I've said stuff to you before, that it's like, I found a funny thing on Twitter the other day. It's like, oh, maybe after COVID-19, men will stop putting their hands on the small of our backs to move us out of the way. And I mentioned that to you. You're like, does that happen to you? Because you didn't. It's like, yeah, it does. Every time I'm in a public place, I guarantee it happens to me several times. And it's just like, and it just happens so often it becomes a normal thing. But you weren't aware of it being a thing because it didn't happen to you.
No.
And it is a thing. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like, you might not be aware of something that's going on, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. So it's really, really important when you're giving advice to people, when you are trying to help people to do something, to make sure that you understand their whole life, the whole of their picture, and help them do it in the framework of that. So quite often, I might be talking to someone that's like, once upon a time, I would have said, yeah, just prioritize it, make this the focus of your thing. But now I'm like, okay, what else is going on in your life? Let's have a look at your schedule. Let's have a look at all of your responsibilities. Let's have a look at all the things that you do. And that's where we start. And then we have a look at, okay, so maybe on a Sunday when you would have perhaps been spending 2 hours watching Netflix or something, which is fine, maybe you could cut that down to 1 and spend that time writing. Maybe that's where you can fit this in. So that's what I would like you to do. It's like, at the moment, maybe this is not a good time to start any kind of a new project, because there's, between...
You're desperately trying to keep your business afloat and pay the bills.
Yeah, and keep your kids from like strangling each other perhaps and that kind of thing. So have a look at what your life looks like and see if there legitimately is anywhere that you could fit this in. And if you want to, do you want to do this? Because that's really important as well. If you do want to do it, you will make time for it somehow. And, there are people out there who can help you do that, including me, because I'm pretty good at helping people schedule their time. Okay, what else? How much time you really need to write a book? Here we go. Because I think one of the things that, when people say that time is a real problem, I don't have time to write a book, I think they sometimes think they're going to have to go to a cabin in the woods and lock themselves away for 2 weeks, and that's their writing time. And if you can do that, then yeah, go for it, because that's an amazing way to write a book, and you absolutely will be able to do it like that, because I have done it. It's great. Not everybody's going to be able to do that. You can write a book in 30 minutes a day. It might take you longer, and you might want to have some bigger blocks of time here and there to do some chunks of work. But if you've got 30 minutes a day, you can write a book in that time. There's plenty of stories about, I think it was one of the lawyers who became a novelist, used to write his books on the morning and evening commute. He had like half an hour on the train to work, and that's when he used to write his books. So and I know that nobody's commuting anywhere at the moment, but if you've got any dead time at all that you would class as dead time, maybe that's time that you could use to write a book. You can think of it as, if you're going for a walk, you can dictate your book into a voice recorder and then transcribe it or have it transcribed.
Yeah.
When I never go anywhere without my Kindle or a book that I'm reading, because I know that if I'm going to be stuck in a queue, say at the post office or something, I could just get my book out and read it. I don't like to just have dead time.
I know. You don't have dead time.
No, sometimes I do.
No, you don't.
Okay. So Joe's really grumpy today, you might have noticed. He's feeling very defensive and very grumpy, and he is disagreeing with everything I say, even when
I'm not disagreeing with everything you say. See? I agreed with that bit. No, I feel a bit flat today. I feel a bit flat. I'd like the world to be a bit bigger.
Yeah. I think we all would love. It's a bit pants, but at least we've got all this space.
We do. Yeah, we're very lucky.
Very lucky. So yeah, the whole, how much time do you really need thing? start from, it kind of depends on when you want to publish a book, which sounds really unhelpful, but it isn't. If you wanted to write and release your book by the end of summer, you're going to need to put more time away. So if you wanted to have your book in your hand by, say, the 1st of August, you're going to need to crack on and you're going to need to put aside, a significant chunk of time every day or every week to do it. But, you've got an hour a day, that's fine. You can do that. If you're happy to write a book over the next year or 6 months or 8 months or whatever, sit down and work out. So you can figure out when you want to release your book and work backwards from there. So let's say your book's going to have around 60,000-ish words and you want to write 500 words a day. That'll take you 120 days, 4 months, to write the shitty first draft of your book. Suddenly that doesn't sound so bad. Break it down into chunks. Instead of thinking I'll need all of this time, this massive amount of time to write a book, think about it as get your book planned out, get your ideas sorted, and then you're going to write 500 words a day, that's all. Some days you will write more than that, I guarantee it, because you'll get into a flow.
By the time you've sat down and written 500 words, you'll just carry on and write more.
And some days you might write 10 really shit words, but as long as it kind of averages out to 500 words. And even then, I would force yourself to write a minimum of 500 words, because even if they're a bag of crap and you ditch them all the next day, at least it is some kind of progress. At least you're getting ideas down.
And you haven't allowed yourself to quit.
You haven't allowed yourself to quit, and that's really, really... Yeah, that's a really good point. Well done. So yes, that's how much time you really need. It's up to you. Nobody's saying that you have to write and publish a book in a month or a week or a weekend, because, by the way, the people who say that, let's address that level of bullshit as well, because
box in a book. Book in a box.
Book in a box. Because I have seen quite a few products and services that's like, write your book in a weekend. And I object to that for 2 reasons. First of all, that most of us cannot write a decent book in a weekend. We just can't, Second of all, it's not true. It's disingenuous, and it's that kind of, here's a magic button to make all of your problems go away. It doesn't acknowledge the preparation work that will go into writing your book in a weekend. You've got to do your planning, you've got to do all of that kind of thing, because you can't just sit down and write for a weekend if you haven't done a little bit of planning. And it doesn't acknowledge all of the editing that you're going to have to do afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's not a book in a weekend at all. And I really, really object to that kind of thing that sucks people in. It really makes me cross.
You might be the kind of crazy person who can sit down and write 30,000 words in a day.
Yeah.
So you might get like you say, you might get the shitty first draft out.
Yeah.
In a weekend.
But that's not a book.
It's going to be terrible.
Well, I don't know. It might not even be terrible, but it's certainly not going to be publishing worthy. Not if you don't want to contribute to the deluge of crap, and I really hope that you don't if you're listening to this. But yeah, it just gives that false impression of, you can write a book in a weekend, and it kind of makes people who can't do that, which is most people, feel like they're a bit shit, or like they're not good enough. And it's like...
Editing, typesetting, cover...
Yeah.
Forwards.
And I'm sure the people who run courses like that, I'm sure they'll be like, but people know that. It's like, that's not what you're selling, though. You're not selling... Get your shitty first draft done in a weekend, blah, blah, blah. The things I have seen are write your book in a weekend. And I'm like, stop it. Because it's not true. And, And anyway, I don't want to read a book that's been banged out in a weekend. Because I've read books like that before. They're not very good. The ideas are sound, but they've not been very good to read. They've not been easy to read. So yeah, I really object to that. And if anyone wants to argue with me about it, that's fine. Bring it on.
Anybody has written a book in a weekend, feel free to send us a copy for a review.
Yeah, I would love that actually. If you've written a book in a weekend and you legitimately did, and you didn't like bang out a shitty first draft and then spend a couple of weeks editing it afterwards, because that is not a book in a weekend. If you've done it, send it to me. Prove me wrong. That'd be awesome. So yeah, that is my view on time. What do you think?
I think most people probably have half an hour a week. If you don't have half an hour a week, then you got bigger problems.
Yeah.
Because you should have a couple of hours a week where you are reading a book with your feet up.
Yeah.
If you don't, then don't add writing a book to your list of things that you do. You need to sort out some headspace first.
Yeah. And here we are back again to so here are my 4 or 5 very quick time hacks. I hate the word hack, but it's good for SEO. Blah. So let's make the most of the time that we've already got. So think about now, probably at the moment, you haven't got an awful lot of dead time because we're not commuting. But maybe if you're out walking, if you're taking your daily walk and you're out for a couple of hours, maybe that's time that you could write your book. Remember, you've got a voice recorder. It doesn't have to be written down.
And you're allowed to sit down now.
You're allowed to sit down now, yes, outside. After Boris's super clear instructions. let's not go there because rage. You could you, it's not saying you could you sacrifice an hour of TV? If it's important to you to write your book, could you do that? Would you be willing to do that? What are you willing to sacrifice to get what you want?
It's a strong indicator of success, isn't it? All those experiments with small children where they kind of go, you can have a jelly bean now, or you can have 3 jelly beans in half an hour.
Yeah. It was marshmallows, but yeah.
Marshmallow, yeah. So, and it's the kids that sacrifice the marshmallow now for 5 in half an hour or whatever. They're the ones. That's a really strong indicator of future success.
Yeah, it is a little bit more complicated than that. But if you're going to be if it's going to be a really broad brush thing, then yeah, delayed gratification is a strong indicator. But you've got to take into account a lot of stuff like what kind of background those kids have had. It's really interesting actually, because if you look at the backgrounds of the kids who have had really deprived childhoods and have been abandoned, and they've maybe got one parent because one of the parents
don't trust the future promise.
They don't trust the future promise, and you can't blame them. So that's like there's a lot of stuff to kind of unpack there. It's really interesting, but in a really kind of generic way, that is a good indicator. And you can train yourself, by the way. You can train yourself to do this. I'm not great at it. I've got to be honest. I could be better at it. So yeah, what will instead of what are you? I can't remember the quote, but it's like, if you think about what are you willing to endure to achieve what you want to achieve. And it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to wear a hair shirt and make yourself miserable, but can you sacrifice something? You might want to prioritise your book over something else businessy. So you might be like, I'm going to do my new website, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to write a book. You're not going to do all of those things. So which one do you want to do most? And then do that one thing first, then move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So this month I've been getting my sales page ready, I've been getting my course ready, all that kind of stuff. Next month I'm going to be hopefully starting to do my audiobooks because I really want to get those done.
Yeah. And it's one of the things that you do with your time scheduling, isn't it? You kind of say, you have client work and you have other stuff that you're obviously doing that pays bills, but your business is one of your clients.
Yes. Yeah. And that is my next hack, is treat your book as a client. Give it a client name, book it a spot in your business. Make it so that, between 10 and 12 every morning or every other morning, that's when you work on your book and you treat it as a client. Yeah. And, you wouldn't let a client down, so don't let your book down. You could get a coach. It's a really good way to do things. If I think that I am going to... It's like I almost signed up for a free handstand class the other day, and I'm like, no, I'm probably not going to do it. I'm going to sign up for it and then it's going to sit there on my phone and I'm not going to do it. But if I have to attend a class and I have to have a call with somebody and they're going to tell me what to do, then I'm going to put the effort into that. So, maybe get a coach, get a book coach, get somebody who you're going to have a call with once a week and they're going to be like, right, these are the things I want you to achieve this week. Have you achieved them? What have you struggled with? Let's go through it. It's
kind of important that the coach understands what you're after. I mean, yes. It's difficult for that coach to be, your partner or somebody who hasn't written books or doesn't know the process of writing books. So you've got to pick your coach.
I also think it's a good idea to invest in something like that. Because again, if I'm doing a free class, I'm probably not gonna prioritize it. But I'm doing a course at the moment that was very pricey. And I am putting the work in. I'm doing it because I paid for it and I want to make sure that I'm going to get my money's worth out of it. So I've been submitting stuff for critique. I've been doing loads of bits and pieces. I've been making all of the calls, even though they're really late at night. I've been going to all of the calls. I think there's only one that I haven't been to so far, and that's because I was physically falling asleep on the desk. But I've got the recording. So yeah, invest in a coach. Find somebody who's going to kick your butt and help you and hold your hand through it and give you goals to hit and help you to edit stuff really well as well. I do that. You could take a course. Again, the investment will encourage you. My course is starting on August the 3rd, begins with an A. August the 3rd. The waiting list will be up and running by the time this is out. So in with the show notes, there's going to be the URL, and that's going to be a live 12-week course with a break in the middle. And you will be, if you want to join, you'll be doing stuff every single day. So it's like a tiny beetle steps to write your book, and you'll have me in there every step of the way, giving you feedback. You'll have feedback from your fellow students as well. So it's going to be a bloody good course. I'm really proud of it. You've read the sales page, haven't you? Does it sound good?
It's good. It's got all the good stuff in it.
It has. Yeah, Joe's like really understated, but if it had been a shit sales page, he would have just said, well, that's a bit shit. And make a plan. Make a plan with put your family stuff, the fun stuff, and the responsibilities you've got first, and then see where you can fit your book in. See where you can fit your book in. So, what's the takeaway, Joe?
Make a plan, write a little bit each day, write a little bit each week, whatever your schedule allows. You fit it in. Fit it in where you've got gaps in your life.
Yes.
Rearrange your life so that you have gaps.
Yeah. And if you can't at the moment, then that's okay.
Yeah.
Wait. That will, I actually think that, that you're never going to be less busy, but I think you will be less fraught than right now.
Honestly can't imagine people what it must be like for people who are homeschooling their kids at the moment.
No.
The temptation to just stick them in front of the telly or throw an iPad at them or, it must be incredible. And if you do that, then, forgive yourself and, do what you can.
Yeah, totes, dude. So coming up next week, we're doing more writing excuses. And this time we'll be talking about, it's all been said already. What's the point of me writing a book?
Mm-hmm.
Which is one that I hear all the time. And on the face of it, it sounds legitimate, but it's totally not. So cool. We'll be back same time next week with that. And in the meantime, the waiting list for my blank page to book in 90 days course is open. The course starts on August the 3rd, and you can join the waiting list at moxiebooks.co.uk/ link is in the show notes because I don't think it's that. I think I changed it to something more easy to read. So link is in the show notes. If you have listened to every episode, email me with your postal address and I will send you a silly gift.
Nice.
And if you like this episode, please go and subscribe wherever you subscribe and leave us a review.
5 stars.
5 stars. And if you know somebody who will enjoy this nonsense, send them a link. moxiebooks.co.uk/podcast.
Nice.
We'll be back same time next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. You can find links and show notes on the website at moxiebooks.co.uk/podcast, where you can also sign up for the best daily emails in the multiverse and find loads of free resources to help you write your book. We'll be back the same time next week with more tales from the book writing trenches and the latest on what the tiny sheeps have been up to.